that he himself gets us to do a seva. हमारी पाक बख्शिश है जो आप बैसाखी मना रहे हैं. We left from Canada on Thursday and I teach in a high school there. And one of my teachers says, Mr. Singh, what are you going for tomorrow? You're taking a day off. So I took Friday off. I said, well, I'm celebrating Baisakhi. And he says, so what's Baisakhi? So Maharaj ji jive utsaah baksha us vele vachan ho gaye. Maharaj ji blessed and I shared with him the life of the 10 gurus in a snapshot for about 5-10 minutes, and I explained to him how there were 10 gurus and they were the same light. Guru Nanak Padshah gave his light to the next guru and to the next guru. The 5th guru gave his shahidi, his sacrifice for freedom of faith, and the 6th guru wore 2 swords of justice, of power, temporal power and spiritual power. And then so on, the gurus continue the path. And the 9th guru again gave a sacrifice for freedom of faith, not for his own faith, but for freedom of the Hindu faith. And said, if Aurangzeb is telling you that you have to convert to Islam, that's not right. We should be able to follow what we believe in, our faith, our religion, our spirituality in the way we want to. And so Guru Gobind Singh Ji himself, I explained to the teacher, Guru Gobind Singh was 9 years old then, he says to his father, Father, who is a greater soul than you to give a sacrifice? Because Guru Tegh Bahadur said there's a sacrifice needed of a great soul. Someone has to give their life so that Aurangzeb will stop this massacre of thousands of Hindus. The Hindu Pandits came and said to Guru Gobind Singh Ji, help us. Sorry, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, help us. And so Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, through his grace, and said to them that, as my son has said, Guru Gobind Singh has said, Gobind Rai has said that there's no other greater soul, so well, you can go and tell Aurangzeb that if you can convert Guru Tegh Bahadur, then we shall all accept Islam, otherwise we will not. And so the Pandits were amazed by that miracle that happened at that point, and Guru Sahib was arrested, goes to Agra, New Delhi, and 3 of his Gursikhs were tortured. Said, you accept Islam or we'll kill you. He said, well, we have nothing greater than Sikhi at this point, and there's nothing greater than following our Guru, so we cannot sacrifice our faith. So when I explained to the teacher, his name's Trevor, he says, so what happened to these 3 Sikhs? I said, well, one of them was sawn alive. Can you imagine? So I said, oh my God, really? I said, yeah, he was sawn alive and he didn't give up his faith. The other person, by Dayalaji, was put in a cauldron, a big cauldron of water, hot water, and boiled to death. And by Sati Das Ji was wrapped in cotton and burnt to death. And they all did this in front of Guru Sahib, so Guru Sahib would waver his faith. And Guru Tegh Bahadur said, no, my Gursikhs don't waver their faith, and the Guru doesn't. So eventually he explained to the teacher that they beheaded Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji and says, well, I've given my head but not my faith. Sees diya, par sir na diya. Tegh Bahadur si kriya kari na kinu aan. This kind of work no one has done. The freedom of faith of another faith to give your life. I explained to them how Jesus Christ, we just passed Good Friday last week, so I explained to them how Jesus Christ gave his faith for the Jews said, well, this is the message, and he said, no, this is the message I have. And he got crucified, but we have 2 of our Gurus who sacrificed their lives the same way, and these Gursikhs. And so then I explained how Guru Gobind Singh at that point became the Guru, and how he spread the message of Gursikhi, and 42 years of his life. A lot of us here are older than 42. You can imagine how much work he did, how much action work he did within those 42 years, and created this miracle of Khalsa on Baisakhi Day. So here we are, we're celebrating a number of things today, but one of the things is, yes, we are celebrating the Amrit ceremony, and we're celebrating the Baisakhi Day in this way. And so I explained to the teacher how Guru Gobind Singh in 1699, just 300 years ago, called all the Sikhs from all over India and said, he sent a letter saying all Gursikhs should meet on Baisakhi Day. And Baisakhi Day, maybe remind ourselves, was not just celebrated by Guru Gobind Singh Ji, but all Gurus used Baisakhi as a point, because it was the festival of harvest in India, in northern India. And I explained to the teacher that Gurus use that day to celebrate and to also give the message of God. Guru Amar Das Ji the Sikh hoine Bhai Parvaji, Paramhans, who used to go across the Bias on his river on his horse, and he would always go to meet the Guru, and he was called Paramhans, the great swan, by Guru Amar Das Ji. He would also arrange the Baisakhi Mela on Baisakhi Day. So we are grateful to have Gursikhs like this who arrange these gatherings of Gursikhs. And so Guru Gobind Singh Ji used the day and said, here we are, I want all of you to gather on 1699 April Baisakhi. And 80,000 Sikhs, it's written in the history, over 80,000 Sikhs were present at Anandpur Sahib that day, in that mountainous hilly area. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji comes out with a naked sword out of the tent. And he says, my sword is thirsty for the head of a Gursikh, the blood of a Gursikh. Koi hai? Is there anyone who would give their life now for the Guru, and as the Gurus have taught you to sacrifice everything, is there one Gursikh who's going to sacrifice the head for the Guru's sword? And so Trevor, my teacher, looks at me and said, really? I said, yeah. So I said, after 3 calls, one Gursikh stood up. His name was Dayaram. Daya is compassion. Every Maharaj Ji ne apni kirpa rahi unhanu khilaya. आप नहीं खिलाते हो गुरसिख, महाराज जी ने कृपा करके उन्हें खिलाया उस तरीके ना. Daya means compassion, which means that the seat of Amrit, the seat of Gursikhi is compassion. If we don't have compassion, we will not act justly. I talk to students and say, when you talk about stopping bullies in the school, you have to have compassion. That's when you stand and say, stop bullying other students. And so, Guru Sahib took that Sikh into the tent, and he came back out with a big thud, and his sword was filled with blood. And then the next time he asked for again another head, he says, Koi ho raha hai Gursikh? My sword is thirsty for another head, another blood of another Gursikh. And ਜਦੋਂ Maharaj ji kya koi hai Gurka Sikh jada Guru Qurbani dega, the next Gursikh who stood up was Bhai Dharam Singh, Bhai Dharam Das. Dharam means justice, the righteous act. Dharam da asal matlab hai jada righteous act te path turna. Manne magna chala panth manne dharm se ti sambandh. Dharm naal matlab righteous way now. One who follows the righteous path. And that means social justice is also part of our righteous path. And so if we have the blessing of Guru, we have compassion, then we have the righteous action. So Japji Sahib Maharaj says, To Dharam Daya ka poot. Dharam is the son of Daya. Righteous action is the son or given birth by the father who is Daya. That means Daya is the seat, the foundation.